Today we're going to be talking about how it's wise to be foolish. Alright? I'm going to actually start, for those of you who don't follow me on Instagram, please do. I'm going to start putting these out a couple days before so you can start wondering what in the world I'm talking about. And then get to come hear about it. But we're talking about tonight that, sometimes in our lives we get advice that seems very foolish. Right? There's sometimes we get advice that just doesn't make sense. But in the end, it may work out to be what was the best idea out there. And I felt like, what's a good example of my life? I really was having trouble. And then ABC Family helped me out with my with my conundrum of what we were going to talk about. So I want you to watch this first clip. You may have to turn the sound up on it. We'll see. But I want you to watch this first clip because this first clip is a lot. What happens to us a lot whenever people like you, especially older people, come up to us and they give us some sort of advice that just seems foolish or seems crazy. Go ahead.
Is he making another run for it?
No. He ran out of asphalt in the middle of the night and asked me if he could come down here. All he's trying to do is make that their turn.
Ah, great. Perfect turns on every track I've ever raced on.
Sheriff, why don't you go get yourself a quart of oil that flows? I'll keep an eye on him.
Well, thanks, Doc. I've been feeling a quart low.
This ain't asphalt, son. This is dirt.
Oh, great. What do you want? You here to gloat?
You don't have three-wheel brakes, so you gotta pitch it hard, break it loose, and just drive it with the throttle. Give it too much, you'll be out of the dirt and into the tulips.
So you're a judge, a doctor, and a racing expert.
I'll put it simple. If you're going hard enough left, you'll find yourself turning right.
Oh, right. That makes perfect sense. Turn right to go left. Yes! Thank you! Or should I say no thank you? Because in opposite world, maybe that really means thank you. Crazy grandpa car. What an idiot. Turn right to go left. Oh.
Oh, I cut off too soon. That eventually does fall on it. So, in this scene, basically, if you don't know what the premise of Cars is this racetrack messes up. This race car comes in, messes up this town, has to fix it, and he thinks he's a hot shot, and this old beat up car or whatever is the one that decides he's going to give him a little bit of advice, and he doesn't want to take it. Find yourself going too much right, find yourself turning left. He's like, that doesn't make sense. It makes absolutely no sense. In fact, most people in the world, if you're not familiar with a lot of driving, you'd be like, what are you talking about? What he did is what's going to happen every time. But let's see actually what he's talking about. Here's an example of this is a second clip of what it's supposed to look like. Alright, now I am not showing you this so you go try this. I want that to be made clear. But it's actually true. If you find yourself sliding, little driving hint, if you find yourself sliding, you turn with the slide and it'll help you regain your control. Now, in our practical mind, when we first see that, it's like, That is very foolish. You're going right, and then you're losing control, so you turn back left. What? But in all actuality, that nonsense that he's being told is actually what is best for him. We're going to start in the Bible today, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 24 and 25, and it says this. It says, But to those called by God to salvation, both Jew and Gentile, aka everybody, Christ is the power of God and the wisdom of God. This foolish plan of God is wiser than the wisest of human plans, and God's weakness is stronger than the greatest of human strength. See, a lot of times what God calls us to looks very foolish in the eyes of the world. There's a lot of things that Christ will lead you into, a direction He'll lead you to go, actions He'll command of you, that everyone around you will think that is dumb, that is stupid, that is foolish. And you know what? In the world's eyes, they're probably right. But let's look at a couple of things, because there's two things I want you to get out of why God would ask you to do something that is foolish in the world's eyes. The first one, we're going to jump to John chapter 9. We're starting in verse 1. We'll read till I stop, I guess. All right. So remember, foolish things. Things that don't make sense, or at least don't make sense to the world. This is what God often calls us to do. All right? As Jesus was walking along, He saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, His disciples asked Him, why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or the sins of his parents? It was not because of his sins or his parents' sins, Jesus answered. This happened to show the power of God, so the power of God could be seen in him. We must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who has sent us. The night is coming, and then no one can work. But while I'm here in the world, I am the light of the world. So basically, Jesus is saying, they're looking at him going, hey, this guy's blind. He's probably blind for a reason. What did he do? Did he do something bad? His mom do something bad? Dad do something bad? His great uncle George, did he do something bad? And Jesus is saying, no, this guy's blind so that the glory of God can be shown. Okay? So then Jesus starts this wonderful plan of what He's going to do next. He's going to, apply some medicine, and He's going to send him off to the doctor, to the Minute Clinic, and then they're going to get him on some eye steroids that are going to help him, right? Is this what happens? No. They didn't have Minute Clinic back then. They didn't have eye steroids. I don't know if they do now. Obviously, I don't know what I'm talking about. But that happens to me a lot in life. But no, that's not what Jesus does. This is the wonderful healing technique that Jesus does, okay? Then He spit on the ground. So imagine like on the ground. Alright? He spread the mud, he spit on the ground, made mud with the saliva. So you got to first imagine, this is probably a lot of spit, okay, enough to make mud. So maybe Jesus took 2 or 3. Like, hey John, come over here, help me out. They get this spit mud, they take it, alright, here we go, got it nice and juicy and ready to put up. And then he goes, okay, now first off the guy's blind, so he doesn't see what's coming, literally. And so, maybe he doesn't care, maybe no one's sitting around commentating. Someone's like, oh, Jesus just, he spit on the ground, he's grabbing up, he's going for the eye, he's going for the, run, man, run! I don't know what's going on, okay? I don't know all those lines, but he makes the spit mud, gets the blind guy, spreads it over his eyes. So just imagine mud made from someone else's spit being just squished across your eye, right? Right? It's just like, all right. And so if that's not enough, this foolish plan also includes this. He told him, go wash yourself in the pool of Siloam. Okay, Siloam means sin. So the man went and he washed and he came back seeing. Now we look at this plan. If you go today, now I have no doubt that God can do this miracle again. I have no doubt. But more than likely, if you are blind, no one is going to say, you know what you need to do? Hold on. And all right, come here, you know. Now this is pretty foolish. This was not like old ancient, you know, oh yeah, the spit is such a healing thing. No. This was something that looked utterly ridiculous to everyone around, except for the blind guy because he couldn't see it. So everyone else, utterly ridiculous. And yet, he then says to the guy who's blind, go and wash yourself in the pool that's called sin. Go there, wash yourself. Now, he didn't say go there, wash yourself, and you will be healed. He says go, wash yourself. So the guy gets up and he goes, he washes it. And I don't know at what point he's like, oh, this is the weirdest thing. I don't know. I don't know how it went down beyond that. But he comes back and the story goes on, but we're not going to talk about it. If you want to hear the rest of the story, which is really cool, continue reading in John chapter 9. But God often calls us to do things that are foolish so that He knows that we're relying on Him. So that no other reason but God is the reason we're doing what we're doing. There's plenty of examples in the Bible about this. You look at in the Old Testament, you had Abraham and Isaac. I mean, Abraham and Isaac, we won't be reading the verses, but Abraham prays for years and years and years and years and years. He's a really, really, really old man. And he finally, God gives him a son and says, here you go, here's your son. All right, you got a son. And now this one son to which he promised was going to make many nations, he says, I want you to sacrifice your son to me. Not like sacrifice him like, you know, we sacrifice Coke for half a day during Lent time. Not like that. We're talking about take a knife to your boy and cut it, you know, on the table. Let's do this. And Abraham's like, okay. Now, in all everyone else's eyes, wow, that's really foolish. That's your one son. It took like, I don't know the actual number. This is not the actual numbers, but it took many, many, many years, hundreds of years before you ever had a kid. And now you got a kid, and now God's telling you to kill your kid, to sacrifice him to me. But Abraham goes, you know what? I trust God. I honor God. I'm going to honor God. And you know, that whole story pretty much plays out like this. You know, they're all for the group going to make a sacrifice. And then they get to the point where they're up the hills where they're going to do the sacrifice. And they get there, and then Abraham's like, hey, all you servants, just stay back. Isaac, come with me, let's go. And then Isaac walking up like, hey, Dad, where's the ram? Where's the sheep? We have nothing to sacrifice. And I mean, I would be like, hold on. You got the knife, Dad. What's going on? Right? They're going up the hill. And he says, don't worry, God will provide. All right? He gets up there and gets the point. Builds the altar. Puts Isaac on it. Raises the knife. All right? And then angel of the Lord comes and says, stop! And he's like, stop! And what does the angel of the Lord say? God says, you know what? I see your faithfulness. I see that you are going to follow me. Sometimes God calls you to do things that seem foolish to the rest of the world so that your motives are solely based on God. You know, sometimes it can be something like you're good at a sport. Say you're really good at softball. We'll just throw that one out there. You're really good at softball. It's something that you got a nice talent with. You can hit it really well. You can throw it really well. I don't know. You can run really fast. I don't know. Whatever cool things you do in softball. And God says, you know what? I want you to give up softball for me. And some of us may look at it and be like, whoa, God, you know, I can get a scholarship with softball. I can really go places. My parents aren't going to have to pay for my school if I keep doing this. And God can be like, no, I want you to step away. I want you to give that up for me. The world looks at that and goes, that's foolish. It does not make sense. But oftentimes, God calls us to foolish things. Some of the foolish things might be that maybe you have the opportunity in a class to be really a part of that cool group. Okay? And then there's some kid over here who is incredibly not a part of the cool group. In fact, he's a part of the annoying group. In fact, he's in a single group of annoyance because he annoys all the annoying people. That's how bad it is. And God says, you know what? You are really cool, you're a popular kid, but what I want you to do is I want you to sacrifice that popularity and go hang out with uncool kid. You know, and everyone around be like, dude, that kid kind of deserves to be by himself. He eats his own boogers. I've seen it. Right? You know what that kid, he doesn't dress very well. He kind of wears the same stuff every day. You know what that kid, maybe he smells bad, he has poor hygiene. Maybe that kid has something that's physically wrong with him. And you're like, no, the world says, no, that doesn't make sense. And God says, I don't care that it doesn't make sense. I want you to give this up. Be foolish for me. Now, it can manifest itself in many ways. You might be, some of you are going off to college soon. And some of you are going, and I had a conversation this week with a college student of where they're feeling God calling them away from their degree that they're planning on going into, that's going to make a lot of money, that's going to put them financially well off, into some sort of teaching or ministry position. And if you don't know, that's the opposite of money. It's like, make money, ministry or teaching. It's there's a chasm here, right? It's a big difference. And they feel, you know what, and this person's really good at all the things that it would take to make this high dollar job. And they feel God calling them to give that up. But then we go, no, that's foolish. You know what? If the world would say this, if you get that high dollar job, you'll be able to do mission trips. You don't even have to fundraise. You can just go once a year. You can do that, or you can help pay for some other people to go. Man, you can do a lot of good. That doesn't make sense. But God says, you know what? If you're going to trust me, I'm going to ask you to do things. That means it's going to be nothing else but me. That this is going to be something that you're obviously showing that you're following me, because no one would do this of their own accord. So that's the first part. The first part, that God calls you to do something so He can see that you're faithful, that you're following Him. The second part, we have to go back to the Old Testament. We're going to go to Judges chapter 7. We're going to be talking with Gideon. Okay, we're not talking with Gideon. We're going to read what Gideon's doing. This isn't a seance. So we are going to be reading here just to kind of give you some background. Sorry, I said seance in the service. It's weird. So what Gideon is one of the judges, and is unraveling fast. He's one of the judges, and he's kind of in charge of God's people at the moment. Okay. Now the Midianites are this army, along with a couple other armies, that are really oppressing them, that are really coming up against the Israelites. It's not a good time for the Israelites. All right, and so there's this kind of war going on like through the whole entire Old Testament. But anyway, this is a particular war at a certain time. So, starting in verse 1, chapter 7, it says this. It says, so Jerubbaal, we'll go with that, that is Gideon, and his army got up early and went as far as the spring of Haran. The armies of Midian, were camped north of them in the valley near the hill of Moreh. The Lord said to Gideon, good pronunciation. The Lord said to Gideon, you have too many warriors with you. If I let all of you fight the Midianites, the Israelites will boast to me that they saved themselves by their own strength. Therefore tell the people, whoever is timid or afraid may leave the mountain and go home. So 22,000 of them went home, leaving only 10,000 who were willing to fight. Okay, so like, there's a big army out there that they're about to go fight. All right? And the Israelites have their big army. So big army against big army equals decent chance of winning. And so any person of strategic mind or who's good at like war stuff or playing the game Risk, anybody's going to look at that and they're going to go, okay, a lot of people, this is better for us. Not as many people, not as good for us. But God hits the nail on the head. He goes, okay, if you go into battle with that many people, then everyone's going to be like, woo, we're awesome. God, where were you? Because I was like slashing them up in there. And it'd be all about themselves. Okay? So they take this moment, and I love it, that he says, tell the people who are afraid, basically, that you can go home. I probably would be in that group. They'd be like, oh man, I'm so nervous about this. I'm not gonna. And Gideon told them, hey, God said that if you don't want to fight, you can go home. Yes! Score! I love you guys. I'll go home and tell people about you. I would probably be that guy. I can't take it. I didn't very well. Anyway, so 22,000 went home. That's a lot of people. They all up and left. The other 10,000, I guess they're just some beasts, right? They're like, yeah, 22. Look at us. You know, we're in it for the T-shirt, baby. So they're deciding they're going to stay, right? So, verse 4 says, but the Lord told Gideon, there's still too many. Bring them down to the spring, and I will test them to determine who will go with you and who will not. What? There's still too many. We were evenly matched almost with them whenever we had, I don't know, I can't do the math. 32,000 people. We felt okay about our odds. 22,000 left. Now we're feeling worse, and God says, no, you still have too many. That's utterly foolish. That's horrible strategy. All right? So verse 5, when Gideon took his warriors down to the water, the Lord told him, divide the men into two groups. In one group, put all those who cupped the water in their hands and lapped it up with their tongues like dogs. In the other group, put all those who kneel down and drink with their mouths from the stream. Only 300 of the men drank from their hands. All the others got down on their knees and drank with their mouths from the stream. Okay, so basically, if you don't want to fight, get all fours, get down there and get your face in the water, right? Because this is what happens. So all the people were like, all right. Those people, those 300 people, they get chosen. So the Lord told Gideon, with these 300 men, I will rescue you and give you victory over the Midianites. Send all the others home. So Gideon collected the provisions and ram's horns of the other warriors and sent them home. But he kept 300 men with him. All right, 32,000 down to 300. This is not 300 Spartan. This is Sparta kick. That's not this 300. Okay, this is a different set of 300. They're the few, the proud. And those are the ones, they're sitting there, they're sitting down there going like, oh yeah, here we go. Oh, and they get in their group like, oh, how'd you drink? With your hands? No, I almost didn't drink with my hands. I was this close. That water just looked a little throaty. And they're like, but I don't know how they were. They may or may not have been like that. But they get to this point, they're down to 300 men, and I'm going to tell you the rest because it spans over the chapter. It's pretty long. But basically what happens is this. Gideon takes his 300 men. They split into 3 groups of 100. Math. And they go after dark, after everyone's asleep, they go down to the camp of the Midianites. And they surrounded the camp. They said at one part that the armies of the Midianites and a couple other groups swarmed in this valley like locusts. I mean, remember, 32,000, we have a shot. We're down to 300. Oh no. And so we're at this point, and he says, all right, 100 of you here, 100 of you over there, 100 of you over there. All right? And then the plan was this. He said, okay, when I give you the signal, we're going to surround the camp. You're going to take a clay jar. So everyone's carrying a clay jar with a torch and a ram's horn. All right? We're going to win the battle with a clay jar, a torch, and a ram's horn. All the people in Marchman are like, yeah, ram's horn, what? But everyone else is like, this is not a great plan. It's a horrible plan. If you were making up a plan, you could come up with something better than this. But like, nope, here we go. Okay, so they all got their items. And you can just imagine it's dark. They can't exactly, this is carrying your items and surrounding the camp. All right? And then they said, whenever I tell you to, you're going to shout a sword for the Lord and for Gideon. And then you're going to throw down the clay pots and the torches. Okay? And then you're going to blow the ram's horn. That's the plan. Alright? So everyone's sneaking around. All right, you got your rims? I got my rims on. Yeah, here we go. And then he's like, and then the signal goes up. I don't know what it is. Like, hey, now, I don't know, whatever. And they're like, okay, boom. And then they shout, a sword for the Lord and for Gideon, because they're British or Scottish or something. And then and what happens? So basically, what happens is this: the camp, everyone in the camp is like, ah! And they wake up. And then they wake up and they're in such a panic they start fighting each other. All right? And they're killing each other. All right? And the majority of my daughter's like, yeah. All right? So they're on the outside. They're on the inside going, ah! And then people are getting killed. People are falling over. And then the remainder of them flee because they're so scared. They're like, oh, man, 300 people. 300 people versus this vast army with clay pots, torches, ram's horns, and one good shout. God sometimes leads us into foolish things so that there's no other way you can explain it but for God. There's times that God tells you to do things that are absolutely ridiculous in the world's eyes, so that whenever they go and they look at it, they go, wow, there's no way you would do that unless it was for God. Many times does God do this in the Bible. I mean, we could talk about Joshua in the Battle of Jericho. We could talk about even one story from Moses, and where Moses has to hold his hands up, and as long as his hands are up, then they're going to be winning. And he gets tired, so they're like two people propping up under the pits. The armpits, not like pits in the ground, and holding it up, and then the sun stops. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. The Bible's so interesting. You should definitely read it. You get through it, and it's like all this stuff that there's no way on God's green earth, literally, that could have happened without God doing it. And that's what God calls us. He may call you. He may call you to get up. There's a story that a lot of times preachers tell about a guy at a revival service, and he's not the preacher, he's in the back, and he's a Christian, he's there supporting the church, and then he gets this urge to start like hee-hawing like a donkey. All right, he's like, that's dumb. Why would I do that? And the preacher's preaching, everything's going on, and he gets this urge to hee-haw like a donkey. Like he's like, God's saying, I want you to hee-haw like a donkey. He's like, I don't want to hee-haw like a donkey. And God's like, I want you to hee-haw like a donkey. Alright? And you know what I'm talking about? Like, hee-haw! That's saying, I want you to do it. And the story goes that the man's like, finally, okay, fine, God, whatever. It's almost over anyway. So he's in the back and he's like, just in the middle of the, and the Lord said, hee-haw! 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 That's what he's doing. And he's like, fine, God, I did it. And this gentleman gets up, right in the middle of the thing, goes down to the front. So well, that's kind of odd, hee-haw, and the guy got up. And the story goes that the guy, after they talked to the guy later, and went down, and he said, I was sitting there saying, God, if you're real, make someone make a complete fool of themselves. Make someone make a complete butt of themselves. And lo and behold, someone in the back starts hee-hawing like a donkey. Now, God may not call you to do that, but God is calling you to do foolish things in the eyes of the world. He's calling you, maybe He's calling you, you know what, maybe you're the shyest person in here. Maybe, in fact, I tried to talk to you tonight and you just kind of like looked at me. Maybe you didn't. I don't know. Maybe you're one of those people that just getting and doing what I'm doing right now is like the craziest thing in your life. Everyone knows that you would never get up to see. And God may be calling you saying, hey, I want you to get up and talk about me. If I get up and talk about you and talk about God, you're like, he's a pastor. Duh. He's supposed to. It doesn't seem very foolish, but you someone who's in the eyes of the school and everyone around you got reputations to think about, well, that's foolish. That's foolish for you. Maybe for you it's like giving money to the church. Now I'm not just talking about tithing. Maybe you go, you know what, I have a job. I have a job, and I have a real big desire to buy the newest game system, and I have a strong desire in my heart. Everyone knows I love it. I really want that. And then God says, you know what? I want you to give that money you've been saving. I want you to sponsor so-and-so, maybe a kid in Honduras. I want you to take your money and I want you to do that. The world goes, that's foolish. Why? Why do you even care about it? You'll never see that kid, or you don't even know if he's all right. You don't know what they're doing with that money. The world says that's dumb. Don't do it. And God says, no, do it. And whenever you give up that money, that people go, wow, what would make a teenager give up his savings for a video game, for a computer, for a new instrument, for whatever, fill in the blank, and give it away to someone else? Only God. The last part that I want you to think about is this. Ultimately, the reason the world thinks that what we're often doing for God is foolish is because the world sees things from a different point of view. The world says, I do what I want. I do what benefits me the most. Why do something, if it doesn't make money, if it doesn't bring me fame, if it doesn't bring me fortune? Why do something if it's not going to make the number one, me, better in my life? But that's not how Christians, that's not how Christ followers view our priorities. 1 Corinthians 1:18 says this. It says, the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are headed for destruction. But we who are being saved know it is the very power of God. The idea of a God sending Himself to repair the relationship with His created creatures that defied Him, that rebelled against Him, doesn't make sense to the world. But we know it's best for us. Christians' ideology, Christ followers, what brings glory to God the most? That's our perspective. That's our point of view. That's where we're coming from. Does this action bring me closer to God, or does this action bring others closer to God? That's our filter. That's where we come from. Is it bringing me closer to God, or is it bringing someone else closer to God? If it's not, then I don't need to be doing it. The world says that's foolish. This is why it seems to be foolish. Like, whenever you pursue a career in ministry or maybe as a teacher. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that other careers are not God-led. I believe God leads people to be CEOs and to be, big money people and to be accountants and to be all that stuff that, requires a lot of fiscal responsibility. I believe God does that. But the world looks at it and goes, wait, you would give up a career of being wealthy just so you can go work with some kids or work with adults or the poor or something along those lines? You could be a lawyer. You could be a doctor. You could be a pharmacist, something, right? This is why it seems foolish to take a summer job as an intern or something at a camp or go serve people overseas whenever you could be getting an internship that'll help you land a big job, right? So far, I've had 2 Georgia Tech students come and intern for me. At some point in time, they'll probably be making more than what I'm making. Hopefully a lot more, right? But they gave up a summer to get paid very little for the amount of hours to serve and work with you. This is why whenever it would seem foolish to eliminate activities from your schedule so that you have more time for God and for rest. When the world says, you know what, you could do, absolutely the most you could do by participating in everything. Don't miss out on anything, so just do everything. This is why it seems foolish to choose not to date, because you're still growing in a relationship with Christ. As opposed to what the world would say is that, you can just date around. You can get what you want. What's the harm? If they're okay with it, you're okay with it. That's what the world says. It could be foolish. Yeah, it could be foolish to go to sleep early so that you can wake up early to spend some time with God. That would seem foolish. No, you're going to bed at 9:30? What? What, so you can get up at 5 because on the school day, it takes you about an hour to get ready, and you really want to spend that time with God? The world said that's nuts. It would seem so foolish. Guys, what I want to leave you with tonight is this. What foolish things are you doing for God in your life? What things are you doing that the world meaning people not following Christ, would look at you and go, well, that doesn't make sense. Because here's the truth of it. If you're not doing anything that seems foolish to the world, then you're probably not living a life for Christ. If everything you do makes sense to people who don't love Jesus, then you're probably just doing the same things that people do that don't love Jesus. There's a thing, and that it's a joke, and I forget the joke, but I remember the punchline, so that's all you're going to get. Sorry. Nope, I remember the joke. There's a guy who comes in as a preacher, and he greets everyone at the end of the door, kind of like Pastor Flint does here. And this guy comes up that he only sees about twice a year. You can guess the times. And he decides, you know what? Next time I see him, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to say something to him. So Christmas comes around, and he's seen him again, and the guy comes to the door, and he's like, Phil, we'll just call him Phil. So Phil, it's good to see, it'd be good to have you in the army of the Lord. Phil grabs the preacher's hand, pulls him in close. Says, I'm in the army of the Lord. I'm just in the Secret Service. and that's yeah, some of you are like, is that it? Yeah, that's it. Sorry. That's the joke, right? But guess what? There's no Secret Service in the army of God. If you are doing exactly what the world is doing and still saying you're following Christ, you're probably not following Christ. And I dare say, go ahead and say, you're not following Christ. If your priorities are still about, you know what, how good do I look? I got to make sure I look good so I'm in with this crowd. If your priorities is, I got to make sure to make the most money. I got to make sure to do what's best for me. I got to make sure that so-and-so thinks I look cute or hot or whatever. If your priorities are the same as the world's, then you're probably not following Christ. If you're not doing something foolish in the world's eyes, then more than likely, you're not following after Christ. Now, what am I saying? I'm not saying that every one of you needs to declare that you're going to become a youth minister or a teacher. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that every one of you is going to go out and make hee-haws like a donkey because that's what you need to do. That's not what I'm saying. But if your life makes sense completely to people who don't know Christ, then you're probably not following. So during this time, we have one more song, and this is the time that you have. I know it's not much of an altar up here, but you're welcome to come up to the front and pray. I want you to spend this time looking at your life. Am I doing anything foolish? Am I doing anything that doesn't make sense to the world because it's only for God? And if not, I want you to take this time and be like, God, help me be a fool for you. Help me to make sure that I'm not living just as the world. Amen, sister. That I'm not living just like the world, but that I am living a life for you. Help me to have courage to know that people are going to notice when you're doing something foolish in the eyes of the world. I pray that God gives you the strength to continue to be a fool for Him. Will you bow your heads with me? Father God, I know it's tough. I know it's tough in this day and age to really be foolish for you. To say, you know what, it's not about the money. It's not about having, the best looks or the best car or truck. Or it's not about, what it is for me, but what can I do for you? God, I pray that in our minds and our hearts that you take over and that you start commanding us to do things that don't make sense. And God, I pray that we do those things that don't make sense so the world sees you in our lives. That the world sees you in our actions, in our thoughts, in our words. And God, I pray that when you tell us what we need to do that's foolish, whether it's to give up that activity, whether it's to be more invested here or at your home church, or whether it's to be someone who pulls aside and hangs out with the goofy kids or the annoying kids. God, I pray whenever that action comes up that we follow through, that we show our loyalty and our love and our honor to you. God, I know right now someone in this room, maybe a lot in this room, God, are really dealing with the fact that they feel like they aren't doing anything foolish. That they're living quiet, comfortable, covert Christian lives. God, I pray that you help them to have the courage to step up and to know that following you doesn't mean that you look like everyone else, but you look foolish. Move in our hearts, God. Help us to seek after you and you alone. In your name, Lord Jesus, I pray.